I am come of the seed of the people that sorrow, who have no treasure but hope, no riches laid up but a memory of ancient glory. My mother bore me in bondage my mother was born. I am of the blood of serfs, the children with whom I have played, the men and women with whom I have eaten, have had masters over them, have been under the lash of masters, and though gentle, have served churls. The hands that have touched mine, the dear hands whose touch is familiar to me, have worn shameful manacles, have been bitten at the wrist by manacles, have grown hard with the manacles and the taskwork of strangers. I am flesh of the flesh of these lowly. I am bone of their bone, I that have never submitted. I that have a soul greater than the souls of my people's masters. I that have vision and prophecy and the gift of fiery speech. I that have spoken with God on the top of his holy hill. And because I am of the people, I understand the people. I am sorrowful with their sorrow. I am hungry with their desire. My heart is heavy with the grief of mothers. My eyes have been wet with the tears of children. I have yearned with old wistful men, and laughed and cursed with young men. Their shame is my shame, and I have reddened for it. Reddened for that they have served, they who should be free. Reddened for that they have gone in want, while others have been full. Reddened for that they have walked in fear of lawyers and their jailers, with their writs of summons and their handcuffs, men mean and cruel. I could have borne stripes on my body, rather than this shame of my people. And now I speak, being full of vision. I speak to my people, and I speak in my people's name, to the masters of my people. I say to my people that they are holy, that they are august despite their chains, that they are greater than those that hold them, and stronger and purer, that they have but the need of courage and to call on the name of their God, God the unforgetting, the dear God who loves the people, for whom he died naked, suffering shame. And I say to my people's masters, beware. Beware of the thing that is coming. Beware of the risen people, who shall take what ye would not give. Did ye think to conquer the people, or that law is stronger than life, and that men's desire to be free? We will try it out with you, ye that have harried and held, ye that have bullied and bribed, tyrants, hypocrites, liars.
I really felt very strongly about having a tribute today, and it's not because it's a certain time of year or a date. It just feels like energetically, with the flow of everything, the way it's coming together, I really feel that we need to step back a bit and look at some examples of what we have been through. And in this case, I want to have a tribute to Patrick Pearse and what some of the Irish Citizen Army did in the past, because this is not, taking sides or saying I'm going into the UK and trying to create problems or anything like that between the different cultures there in the UK. But it's more or less showing an example of these are those that have been oppressing us from the beginning. And whether they're moving through monarchies, and there are many monarchies, and there have been many monarchies and many powers, and then those powers that are behind the monarchies, and then those powers that are even further behind them that are in and out of our reality or have extraterrestrial abilities and knowledge. Those who have been playing the chessboard all along. And every now and then we have someone that rises up, not because they need attention, not because they need followers, but because it's the right thing to do, because they felt backed against the wall. What happened here in 1914 set a precedent for the people in Ireland. The people in Ireland went through various forms of slavery because the entities had gotten a stronghold into their culture. And you might ask, well, why Ireland? Well, Ireland's very significant. It's their connection to Atlantis. There's a very strong connection to Atlantis. And the many entities that took over and destroyed Atlantis could very well be here. I don't think these are the only ones that are doing this. There is something about Atlantis that we keep returning back to for some reason or another. And in my book, The Seer, Violets in the Grass, I talk about the second to last chapter, Atlantis rising to the sun. Atlantis is coming back up, but not just through secret space programs, but the true essence of who they are, the power of what they contributed, the advancement of technology, the knowledge of being able to move in and out of our space in a more natural way, the connection to water, and all these other things. But let's step back and talk about the story. We'll talk about the man, Patrick Pearse. But in order to do that, we first have to talk about this Irish citizen army that existed. So it was a small paramilitary group that was trained. They had a trade union volunteers with Irish Transport and General Workers Union, and it was established in Dublin. We're looking at the date around, it says there were primary individuals that are noted here. This is James Larkin, James Connolly, James White, and it looks like a bunch of James here. And on the 23rd of November 1913, and the prominent included Sean O'Casey, Constance Markovitz, Francis Shea Skeffington, and P.T. Daly, Kit Poole. And in 1916, it took part in the Easter Rising. And my connection to Ishtar made me kind of get pulled into this. So, and I'm kind of excited that they stood up for themselves during that day, instead of, complying to it. It kind of reminds me also of when I used to kind of walk and protest with the Native people regarding Thanksgiving. And I know some people are going to say, oh, look at her, she's ruining all the holidays. No, not really. I mean, you can still sit around and celebrate, but remember that there are those that have been oppressed, and so it's important to understand that. And everyone knows I'm not a bleeding heart liberal, but sometimes there's an honesty that things have to be somewhat resolved in order to have the energy reset and balanced. And so, in these cases, not to divert from the conversation here, we have we have this incident happen, this rebellion that happens on Easter, the Easter Rising. It was an armed insurrection that ended in a British rule in Ireland. Following the Easter Rising, the death of James Connolly and the departure of James Larkin, the ICA largely sidelined itself during the Irish War of Independence by choosing it only offer material support to the Irish Republican Army and not become directly involved itself. Following the ICA's declaration in July of 1919 that members could not be simultaneously members of both the ICA and IRA, combined with the ICA's military inactivity, there was a steady stream of desertion from the ICA during the Irish Civil War, and the ICA declared itself neutral, resulting in further departures from the organization. The ICA ceased to hold military importance from 1920 to 1934. Around this time, there was a great influx of people that went to the United States because they were looking to get away from some of this oppression after that they had lost the battle. And but the battle carried on when they went into the United States. And also in the slave trades, the Irish were also then kind of coupled in alongside the Africans for slavery. None of this should have happened. These are the entities that we have been struggling with. On Monday, the 24th of April, 1916, 220 members of the ICA, including 28 women, took part in the Easter Rising alongside a much larger body of the Irish volunteers. They helped occupy the General Post Office on O'Connell Street, then named Sackville Street, in Dublin's main thoroughfare. Michael Malin, Connolly's second in command, along with Kit Poole, Constance Markovitz, and ICA company, occupied St. Stephen's Green. And the St. Stephen's Green is it looks like a park, a garden square, and a public park located in the city centre of Dublin, Ireland. Another company under Sean Connolly took over the city hall and attacked Dublin Castle. Finally, a detachment occupied the Harcourt Street railway station. The ICA men were the first rebel casualties of Easter week, 2 of them being killed in an abortive attack on Dublin's castle. The confusion in the chain of command caused conflict with the volunteers. Harry Coley and Harry Boland came out from their outposts in the Wicklow Chemical Manure Company's office 200 yards away, where they were under the command of an irascible office. Vincent Poole the post had been set up by James Connolly without countermanding orders from the effective volunteers. Sean Connolly, an ICA officer and Abbey Theatre actor, was both the first rebel to kill a British soldier and the first to be killed. The total of 11 citizen army men were killed in action in the Rising, 5 in the City Hall, Dublin Castle area, 5 in St. Stephen's Green, and 1 in the GPO. James Connolly was made the commander, and the rebel forces in Dublin along the Rising and issued orders to surrender after the week. And he and Matlin were executed by the British Army firing squad some weeks later. The surviving ICA members were interned in English prisons at the Frongoch internment camp in Wales in between 9 and 12 months. So you can see that this whole thing really broke out. Here James Larkin was in America and later imprisoned in Sing Sing. So you can see it carried over 1920, 1923. The ICA was largely left in the hands of James O'Neill. By that time, the Irish War of Independence, there was never more than 250 people actively involved in the ICA, and there was mostly concentrated in Dublin City. By this stage, the ICA could not nor would not engage directly with British forces in Ireland. Instead, the organization chose to operate as a support organization to the IRA, provide weapons and medical aid and so forth. So, I mean, and I'm not suggesting that we go into war, but remember, we're doing battle with those that are behind all of these powers that have continued to oppress humanity for a very long time. This is some of the banners that they had in the ICA uniform. Was dark green with slouched hat and a badge in the shape of a red hand of Ulster. This is a symbol used in heraldry to denote the Irish province of Ulster in particular, although historically the hand has been used by many Irish clans across the island. As many members could not afford a uniform, they wore a blue armband with officers wearing red ones. Their banners was a starry plough. James Connolly said, the significance of the banner was that the free Ireland would control of its own destiny from the plough to the stars. The symbolism of the flag was evident in its earliest inception of the plough with a sword as its blade. Taking inspiration from the Bible and the following the internationalist aspect of socialism, it is reflected in the belief that the war which was designed by members of the Republican Congress and adopted as an emblem of the Irish labor movement, including the Irish Labour Party, through the eventually dropped. It also is claimed by the Irish Republicans. Alongside the Irish tricolour, the Irish provincial flag, and the Provisional IRA, and the National Liberation Army. As I said, I'm not telling people to go into battle. This is also the orange star plough flag that was brought in. Let's go to Patrick Pearse. He was born in 1879 in Dublin. He died in 1916. He was an Irish teacher, a barrister, a poet, a writer, a national Republican political activist, and a revolutionary who was one of the leaders of the Easter Rising in 1916. Following the execution, he was executed along with 15 others. Pearse came to be seen as the embodiment of the rebellion. He grew up surrounded by books with his father, who's an educated man and a teacher. He got involved with the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and he wrote books or wrote stories. He gave a graveside oration at the funeral of Fenian Jeremiah of O'Donovan Rossa, who was an Irish Fenian leader and a member of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Some of his writings include The Rebel, which I'm going to want to share with you because it's very, very powerful, and I believe it relates to all of us today. All of us. Not just the Irish, and not our friends from Atlantis, but the need for liberation. Yesterday I had a vision of this draconian power structure being lifted from the Lemurians. I felt a relief, like something lightened up. Now that the Lemurians are becoming free, it's time for the Atlanteans to be free as well. I want to read this proclamation that Patrick Pearse did. Provisional Government of the Irish Republic to the people of Ireland. In the name of God and the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Having organized and trained her manhood through her secret revolutionary organization, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and through their own open military organizations, the Irish Volunteers, in the Irish Citizen Army, having patiently perfected her discipline, having resolutely waited for the right moment to reveal itself, she now seizes that moment and, supported by her exiled children in America and by gallant allies in Europe, by relying on the first on her own strength, and she strikes in full confidence of victory. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland, to the unfettered control of Irish destinies, to be sovereign and indefeasible. The long usurpation of that right by a foreign people and a government has not extinguished the right, nor can ever be extinguished except by the destruction of the Irish people. In every generation, the Irish people have asserted the right to national freedom and sovereignty. 6 times during the past 300 years, they have asserted in arms, standing on that fundamental right, and again asserting it in the arms in the face of the people. We hereby proclaim the Irish Republic as a sovereign, independent state, and we pledge our lives and the lives of our comrades in arms to the cause of its freedom and its welfare and of its exaltation amongst the nations. The Irish Republic is entitled to and hereby claims the allegiance of every Irishman and Irishwoman. The Republic guarantees religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunities to all citizens, and declares its resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation of all its parts, cherishing all the children of the nation equally and oblivious to the differences carefully fostered by an alien government, which have divided a minority of the majority of the past. And I know that they're referring to the British government or the monarchy here. I would say that there's another way to look at this. There truly was an alien government that was ruling them and oppressing them. Until our arms have brought the opportune moment for the establishment of a permanent national government, the representative of the whole people of Ireland and elected by the suffrages of all their men and women, and the provisional government hereby constituted will administer the civil and military affairs of the Republic in trust for the people. We place the cause of the Irish Republic under the protection of the Most High God, whose blessing we invoke upon our arms, and we pray that no one who serves that cause will dishonor it by cowardice, inhumanity, or rapine. In this supreme hour, the Irish nation must, by its valor and discipline, must, by the readiness of its children and sacrifice to themselves for the common good, prove itself worthy of the august destiny to which it is called. So this was signed by Thomas J. Clark, Sean McDiarmada, P.H. Pearse, James Connolly, Thomas McDonnell, Ewan I can't say his name, Sant, and Joseph Plunkett. So the ending for Patrick Pearse was not the best, but his words live on, and I want this speech that I'm going to ask Rolf to read to you is very, very powerful. I was very moved by it, and I can sense that it relates to each and every one of us as a human race, and how that we have been oppressed, and they keep on spinning it in many different ways. They keep on pointing fingers, creating conflicts amongst us. And it's time for us to awaken to that fact, rise above it, and also see the truth that we all deserve to be free. All humanity. The battle is a spiritual battle, and the battle will be won. I just want to remind everyone that, part of the battle and the challenges that people go through that are trying to do the right thing, it kind of reminds me of what Trump went through when he was trying to point out that there were child trafficking and all these other things, that then they turned everything around and said that he was evil and he should be destroyed. And likewise, I feel it carries over into this article. And unfortunately, Wikipedia and whoever writes these articles have this sort of leaning from information that they get. And to me, I feel like if I tune into this, I feel like this part in his reputation doesn't feel accurate to me. It feels more like, he might have been a bit of a recluse, and maybe, I don't know whether or not he had autism. They didn't really know what autism was at that age. But they also then imply that he was gay, or that he was like children, little boys or something like that, which was a clear way to sidestep those that are speaking out for the truth. And I want you to recognize that as well, because it will and can get nasty, but we're going to ask to neutralize any and all people that are standing up for things, that they don't get falsely accused of certain things, and that we keep grounded about it and not run with the information. There are times when these activities are going on, but in this case, I feel that it was a misalignment as a character assassination. And that's the best way to get people or prevent people from standing up to the truth. And so keep that in mind when you're reviewing a bit of this history, but also others that go to stand up for what's right, and how they quickly get maligned and are attacked according to their character. And, I even I felt that people have tried to do a bit of that to me as well. And anyone that goes publicly and is speaking out about certain things can run the risk of that. But as I said, it doesn't necessarily make it true. It's just another way of warfare. And they've been doing the same thing for a very long time. I had a brief interaction with Miles Johnston, and whom I admire and feel that he has a real heart for the people. And he was pretty much saying that it's getting very bad over there, as it is over here in some places in the US. And I said, we're not going to give up, though. I mean, we can't give up. And he said, never. And so that's how we're going to keep on going. But we're going to change the way we do things. We're going to use our spiritual battles. And we're going to ask to have those that have been oppressing us since humanity has been here, tricking us, manipulating us, oppressing, and changing the rules, constantly trying to assert themselves over us to a point of the slave system. So we're asking for you all of you, to awaken to this, see this as an example. Even though it happened in 1914, this article was written in 1914, even though this happened and it kept going. But let's think about the price that many people have paid in order to have our freedom and liberty. Just like in the United States, many people fought and died, fought the same system that he is contending with here. So with that said, thank you for listening. And let's embrace that message of empowerment and truth and sovereignty. Have a good day.